Hello and welcome to Borough Briggs Beat, the official podcast of Elgin City Football Club. My guests this episode are Lily Morrison, striker with Elgin City Women, playing in the SWFL North, and Stephen Hopes, the finance director at Elgin City. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you.
I didn't have to look so nervous. You look fine. Good stuff. This is a debut in Borough Briggs Beat for both of you, isn't it? We're working our way through everybody at the club, so it's nice to get a mix and just different people on. So
yeah, it's nice to be here.
I've managed to avoid it till now.
Yeah. You'll love it, Stephen. You'll love it. You'll love it. As I said, Stephen's the finance director, so he's the money man, and Lily is a striker with Elgin City Women, banging in the goals this season. I'm going to start with you, Lily, and the question I posed to you, give you the heads up, is what does it mean for you to play for Elgin City and wear the black and white? Because you're an Elgin girl, aren't you?
Yeah.
What school did you go to? Are you still at school?
Yeah, still at school, so I'm in my 5th year of high school, so I've still got this year and next year before wherever I go.
For you have to enter into the big bad world.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, Elgin High.
Elgin High, yeah.
Elgin High, right. And at this stage, do you get any ideas? I mean, we'll maybe come on to it later because I do touch on it, but you get any ideas what you like to do after you leave school?
I think football is always up there, number one priority if I get the opportunity to do that, but I'm keeping my options open. I'm studying hard. I've got all the qualifications I would need if I wanted to go and do something like university. But it's really up in the air right now.
Yeah, that's quite sensible. So, I mean, to play for Elgin City, how does that feel? I mean, is that quite a proud moment?
Yeah, it is pretty incredible. As you say, I grew up in Elgin, and it was the normal thing. My grand and my dad going to the men's game on a Saturday, and I would just follow them watching the men's team, and for now to be playing for the women's team under the same badge, it's amazing. It's things I dreamt of when I was little to know to be playing for Elgin. And the team's amazing. We've only been together for 2 years, but it already feels like we've been together for so long.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, you've really it's taken off the women's team and the setup and everything. It's really professional.
Yeah, the first game, the amount of fans we've had, we've almost doubled that at every game now. So it's incredible to see. Like you turn up and there's already people there, and it's good for the women's game. It's really growing up here from not having a lot of teams to now there's loads of girls playing around, so it's really good. Yeah,
and it just expands the club as well, doesn't it? A lot more supporters and people that maybe wouldn't have been to football before, and families and everything like that.
I think there's a lot more people as well that maybe didn't have any ideas of going to a women's game that are now regulars. So it's amazing, as I say. It's proud to be a part of it as well, to be right from the start, and now to see where we've grown to.
Yeah,
for Elgin. I think it's great for Elgin as well. Eye-opening probably for some people, but it's nice to be involved with.
And the standard's good. I mean, I can vouch for that. I've seen a lot of your games, and the standard's really good. So I would encourage everybody to get down, whether it's at Borough Briggs or the Gleaner, to watch your games.
Yeah, it is nice to play at Borough Briggs, but we need to perform wherever we are, really. And that's what's said in the dressing room. Whatever game it is, we need to perform. We need to perform. And so far this season we have been, and we hopefully continue to do that.
Yeah, you just need to sweet talk Cecil to get as many games in Borough Briggs as possible. Buy him sweeties or something, or just compliment him. Right, Stephen, we'll turn to you. We'll come on to the finance director role in a wee bit. We'll ask you all the searing questions about budgets and all this kind of thing.
At that point.
Aye. But when did you first start watching Elgin City or being involved with the club?
Well, I suppose I've lived in Elgin my whole life, really. So I've followed the club in some capacity for many years. In terms of getting down to watch them, if I'm honest, I've only really started getting down to the games since I've become a director.
Okay.
Obviously, growing up, I was mainly rugby based, so an awful lot of my friends and family were surprised.
All right, so you're an egg chaser.
Exactly. Was surprised to see my name come up on that, because I didn't give any of them a warning. But I mean, I guess what draws me to the club is what an asset it is to the town and the potential Elgin City has. And, when you actually get down there and you see all the, parts that make it work, it's just really good to be a part of.
Aye. What position did you play in rugby? Did you play?
Yeah, fullback.
You're a fullback, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got a bad back now to pay for it.
Did you play football yourself? Mainly rugby?
Not for... Yeah, you'd be going back to when I was maybe 10 years old. That was probably the only football I ever played.
Right.
Never much use at it. I'm better watching.
Great stuff. Excellent. Lily, we touched there how, this season for the women, how well it's going, because you're in the quarterfinals of the League Cup, you're in the fourth round, Scottish Cup. Obviously, we'll talk about that game in a minute, St Johnstone, and you're 100% record in the SWFL North. So it couldn't be going any better at the moment, could it?
No, it's been fantastic. The start of the season, we've been working hard in pre-season. We've had a bit of a break from Christmas with games being cancelled with the snow and the ice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say Sunday was maybe a reflection of that we hadn't played a lot of games. But again, we had to win, and that's what we done.
You still won 5-0, so you beat Dice in 5-0, so it was a good performance.
I say a professional performance there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we want to continue top of the league. We want to continue in the cup. Scottish Cup, we're happy where we are. We obviously want more. We've beat a team that's 2 leagues above us, and there's no reason why we can't do 3.
And you scored the winning goal that day.
Yeah, I did.
Don't be modest. You scored the winning goal, 1-0 win.
Yep, it was an incredible moment. I kind of scored, and I thought it was quite early on in the game, and I thought, this is not done. We've got more goals than us potentially. At that time, I thought they've definitely got goals in them, and I was kind of a bit unsure whether that wasn't the game for me. And it got longer and longer, and this events got bigger and bigger, and the final whistle went, and it was.
There's a kind of iconic picture from that game where you've just scored the goal and you're turning away, and I think you've got your hand up in the air, your finger in the air, kind of like Shearer-esque. So
that's my dad's celebration. That's what he done when he scored. So
okay,
that's now what I've taken up.
Right. Okay. Your dad, obviously, Mo Morrison being the manager as well. But how is that dynamic? Has your dad coached you before?
He's always been at games, coaching me from the sides, shouting at me. But at training, he's my coach. It's no different. He doesn't treat me different to anybody else. I listen to him. I do what he says. When we go home, maybe I'll get a bit more like analyse of the game and what I done wrong, what I done good. But I enjoy that. I get to almost get more in depth in my game and know what I need to work on. But as I say, at training, at games, he's my coach, and it's no different. This
weekend you're away at Grampian at Spain Park, but the weekend after you're down the road to Perth, playing St Johnstone next round of the cup. They play second tier.
Yeah, second
women's
tier.
Football. Yeah, so I mean it's a big step up again. But there's not only a team bus going, but there's a busload of supporters going as well. How special is that going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest game of the women's side history. We're really thankful of everyone that's coming down, spending their day coming to watch us, and we're hoping that we can put in a good performance for them. Not just, hopefully a win, not just a good performance. A win would be everyone's sort of
it would be amazing,
ideal outcome.
And ironically, it's been played at Genefield Swifts, who probably produced one of Elgin City men's team's worst results in recent times when they beat them 6-0 in the cup. Was it 2 seasons ago or the year before? No, just the year before last, wasn't it?
Yeah, hopefully we're going to overwrite that and show Elgin our winners.
Aye, the women are going to carry the flag to the Genefield.
Yep.
I hope so.
Aye. I mean, in terms of the women's game, Stephen, it's really taken off with Elgin City, isn't it? They're really
it
doing
really has.
fantastic.
It's super to see, and obviously, hopefully, it encourages more, girls to come through and be part of it. Obviously, Chris Foots really spearheaded that, in terms of the directors, and he's done a super job.
Chris is relentless, isn't he?
Yeah.
He just keeps pulling in sponsors.
He does everything for us.
If it moves, he can get it sponsored.
I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges, I suppose, of running any part of the club. Obviously, when you bring in a ladies' team, and they're not really generating the money that a men's one will through the standard,
through the gate,
revenue streams. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be far more creative, and that's something Chris has done very well. Is obviously pushing, as you say, the bottoms of the shirts, the shorts,
everything. He's got every
boots,
space
you name
covered.
it.
Aye. I think it's brilliant, and the fact folk are buying into that as well, aren't they? The people are wanting to get behind the women's team as well.
Yeah, I think we're on 150, 160 something sponsors now.
Wow.
And Chris is coming up, as you say, with new ideas every week. And that's the reason we're here, is because of Chris. Everything he does social media, he does all the sponsors, everything for the awards night. He does anything you can think of, Chris has got involvement with, or he does himself.
Yeah, he's some boy, great stuff. Stephen, I mentioned earlier, you're the financial director, and this is going to be the hopefully interesting part. You're the money man at Borough Briggs. How? I mean, I'll come on to your age later, but well, you're only 28, aren't you? So
Yes.
you're a young guy, accountant, but is that a big pressure, or do you thrive on balancing the books?
I wouldn't say I
Well,
thrive.
hopefully you do balance the books, do you?
I wouldn't say I thrive on it. Yeah, I mean, balancing the books, it's the boring side of things, but it's so important. I mean, I think finance and Scottish football, everybody's seeing at the moment, they're not going too well together. Obviously we see what's happened up at Cali Thistle and Dumbarton, and back in November, obviously the SPFL was saying, they're aware of lots of other clubs that are facing financial pressures. You're seeing more and more crowdfunding and, to help keep teams going. They're expensive, and you only have to look away for a short period of time for it to snowball out of place. So you've kind of got to keep on top of it. And then you take a club like Elgin, it's a relatively small club when you compare it to, obviously, when we had Aberdeen up there. You've only got, the staff and the resources of that size of club, but there's still the same number of parts to it, and so it's not necessarily less work. So yeah, it's a fair effort, and obviously you have to balance, putting on a competitive team on the pitch versus keeping the building, the infrastructure, and everything going. Then obviously you can have a playing budget, you can work really well to build a solid team, and then end up with half of that playing budget sitting in the stand injured, and somehow you've got to thread the needle and make that work.
Yeah, I mean, clearly over the years in Scottish football, there's been a lot of clubs that have spent way more than they're actually taking in. The biggest example, Rangers, when they went, bust and that, and there's been many other clubs have gone that way. Is that something? I mean, Alan Murray, the chairman's been quite upfront that it has to be sustainable. You will never do that as a club,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any money that's spent or any deals that are done, obviously, are done through a player trading model, and they are meticulously mapped out. Obviously, the playing budget goes back and forward between the two Allans and myself, probably 2 or 3 times a week sometimes.
Right.
So it is managed, within an inch of its life, and that's it's time consuming, but it's kind of the way it has to be, because a simple mistake and suddenly you are over budget. And it's not just obviously in budget, it's cash flow, it's whether you actually have the money to pay that wage bill, when it comes around. So it is hard to manage, there's no getting around that.
So before you got involved with the club, obviously you're an accountant, qualified accountant, and you deal with clients. Is there any difference to running a football club to running a business financial model?
I suppose yes. I mean, in the sense that obviously the football club, it's not there to make profit, whereas obviously a standard business is. So it doesn't need to make profit, but it does need to avoid making losses. And it does need to, as you said earlier, be sustainable in order to, fund, the investment in infrastructure and ensuring that, we're just the custodians of the club just now, but the club still needs to be there in 10 years' time. So there's no point putting a fantastic pitch on a team on the pitch this year and not being able to pay for that team next year. So it's building a solid foundation so that there's a solid team for this year, next year, and many years after, whilst also maintaining as a club there. So it's a tricky one to manage, whilst you're never going to make a profit in a football club.
Is that just an unrealistic ambition for clubs to turn over a profit these days?
I would think so. I mean, I suppose if you're making too much of a profit, then you're probably then not investing enough of your money in the facilities. You do have to speculate to accumulate. So you do have to spend money, but you also have to make sure you keep enough for, when there's a leak in the roof, when a player gets injured, when the mower packs in, as I say, all that really exciting things that kind of nobody sees.
And do you have to be the guy then occasionally has to say, right, no, can't spend that?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why board meetings take so long. An awful lot of our decisions behind the boardroom door are debated, on, financial merit. You don't have the financial resources of big clubs, and, what might seem small is a big expenditure to us.
Yeah.
So we do have to consider that, and sometimes, unfortunately, we do have to say no, and we come to a consensus on that. I would say more than me saying no, it's you kind of talk it over and you look at what else we need to spend on, and if it's outside the budget, if you reallocate money to that, something else has to get cut, and it's just the world we live in, I suppose.
Yeah. And how much of your time does that take away, over and above your normal day job of managing clients?
I probably spend at least as much time on Elgin City these days as I do in my own job, which is ironic, because if you'd asked me before I joined, I'd have told you I didn't have the time. When I first was asked to join, I was told it would take up about 2 hours a week.
Right.
And yeah, Grant Shewan really did me on that.
Brilliant. Of course, Lily, your position, as I mentioned before, you're doing it for the love. You don't get paid.
No.
Is that your ultimate dream, though, to you'd love to be a professional?
Yeah, I think that's kind of my goal, is to be full-time, earning. Women's football, probably not. Say I was playing for Arsenal, is not going to be half as much as what the men get, but I'm not so bothered about that. What I'm bothered about is playing at that high level, is what everybody wants to achieve. It's not about the money necessarily for me, which I know some footballers might disagree with at the top level, likes of Ronaldo going to Saudi Arabia, Personally, I think that's a bit of the money for me, but no, it's just the dream to play and play in front of big crowds and, score the last minute winner in a game. That's just what I thrive for.
And that is becoming more realistic, even in Scotland, because I think Rangers and Celtic, they're both full-time with the women.
Yeah.
And a lot of the English clubs are all full-time now, so there is more opportunities to make a good career.
Definitely. I think in the Scottish League, Rangers and Celtic and Glasgow City seem to be a bit more kind of advanced than likes of Aberdeen and teams like that. But it's definitely grown. If you look back a few years, Rangers and Celtic, they weren't in the Champions League. They weren't in, the leagues like that, Europa League. And now they are, and they're winning games, and it's just proving how much it is growing. You're getting people coming over from overseas playing for likes of Rangers and Celtic and Glasgow City, and it's good to see that we're kind of starting to catch up a bit with the English teams and getting on that level.
Certainly down south. I mean, Sky Sports and that, they cover the women's game extensively, so they're all becoming a bit of superstars, a lot of them as well, aren't they?
Yeah, you're seeing the women's game on telly nearly every week now. It's becoming a bit more normal, which it's great to see, as I say. It's great to see.
I suppose you've got now quite a good role model to hopefully tap into at Elgin City with Nikki Grant, the operations director. She had a great career in multiple countries, Sweden, Finland, America, Germany. She played for Arsenal ladies as well. So that's maybe someone you could tap into for some advice or just guidance. Played 99 times for Scotland.
She's a role model for everyone. I know she's done a bit with Murray Girls as well at their awards nights, and she's done her bits and pieces, and it's amazing for the club to have sort of a female kind of person that's done all this sort of things and representing the club as a woman footballer. And it's we look up on her, we look up to her at the women's side, and that's kind of her career is stuff we dream of.
Aye.
So it's great to see that she's involved with Elgin and bringing her ideas, and hopefully she's got some good ideas for the women's side as well.
Good stuff. She's a big Rangers fan as well. You're a Rangers fan, aren't you? You and your dad, I know that. But did you know that Nikki played for Celtic? She never played for Rangers, but she played for Celtic.
She might have made a mistake.
She keeps that quiet. But she did admit it in the last episode. How big an appointment for the club was Nikki, Stephen?
Oh, I mean, it was a massive appointment. Obviously, there was since the board's come in, obviously, there's been a lot of new board members, and then obviously, with Mark obviously moving on, and then Craig, obviously it was really important to get the right fit to come in and work with Frank, and I guess people don't realise how much operational work there is to be done behind the scenes. Club licensing rules have been enhanced. They only came in a few years ago, and they're getting harder and harder. And obviously the penalties for not meeting them. Obviously, Bonnyrigg, 6-point deduction for their pitch and things like that. So keeping on top of everything is so important, and you need somebody who's kind of got their eye on the ball on that. So having the right person who can do that, but also be an ambassador for the club, work with the ladies team, work with obviously, putting on the men's team matches. There's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes that most people probably don't see, and obviously there's only so much you can do, obviously, with the teams of volunteers we've got who do great work, obviously helping Cecil with the pitch, but it does take a lot of people behind the scenes to pull it all together.
Yeah, aye. And Elgin will never get a points deduction for their pitch because Cecil keeps it in immaculate condition.
He certainly does, yes.
It's his pride and joy, that pitch.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, you see them, the Monday morning, after a game weekend, they're out working. I mean, and it's back-breaking stuff. I certainly wouldn't be fit enough to do it.
Aye, great stuff. Lily, I'm going to come back to you. We touched on it there a wee while ago about your ambition maybe to become a professional footballer. You have kind of taken a step towards that. You've signed up with an agency that kind of could lead down the line to a footballing scholarship. Tell us a wee bit more about that.
So it would be, I would fly over to America in 2026. It's 4 years. So I'd be a student athlete. So I'd not only be juggling my football, it would be school as well.
Okay.
So that's like a Scottish uni degree.
All right.
So whatever I would decide to study, I would be doing that. And then also having almost the life of a full-time footballer over there as well. It's training at least once a day. Matches can be 2 a week. So
that'd be like college football or college soccer,
soccer
as they call it out there. Aye.
Yeah. So it would be full time. It would be a lot, but it's what I'm willing to give. If that's what I'm wanting to do, is be a professional footballer. It would be a good step. And the women's game over there is massive.
Aye, it's big as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Aye. So what do you have? 2026 we're now into 2025, so that's only like 18 months. So what do you have to do between now and then for that to become a reality?
Well, it's just progressing with my football. They do like open training sessions and like gym days, and they do stuff to keep up with my schoolwork. So it's attending them. It's a bit difficult at the moment because they're on Sundays, and also we play on a Sunday.
Right.
So I've been struggling to get to them recently, but I think they're starting to do ones on different days. So I'm managing to get to some of them more. And then also it's keeping up with my schoolwork.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my hires this year, which is what I need to get into uni. So I'm hoping to get good results in that. So I can get the full ride scholarship. So you can get a sports scholarship and you can get a academic scholarship. So most of the time your scholarship is based on your academics and your footballing ability. So it's usually actually less. It's your football and more your academic. So it's keeping my grades up there that I can get almost the full ride scholarship without having to pay anything.
All right. So it would all be funded and everything?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for, yeah.
Right. Well, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds like she's got it. I mean, you really switched on to all this. I mean, how did the opportunity come about to sign with this agency? So
my dad knew the man that like kind of owns the agency. Used to play football with him back in the day, I think. So he I think first he reached out to my dad and said, is Lily fancying this? And at the time, I think I was a bit young and I wasn't sure. And I've seen videos of people doing it. I've seen the opportunities. I know a couple of people that's over there currently that I've grown up playing with. They've been in different teams. And I've kind of saw their life and I was like, yeah, I think that's for me.
Right.
And I think it's something that I would regret in later life
if
I
you
didn't do.
Try and go for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a super opportunity.
Big step, but exciting one if it comes off.
Yeah, it would be total change, but I think I'm ready for it. If I was going to university, I'm still leaving home. It's a couple of 1,000 miles closer, but you may as well go big. Yeah.
And do you know yet which college you'd be attached to? Is that something you would look at further down the line of which college you might be with? Or?
So at these training sessions, they're all recorded by the VO, and they kind of get clips of what style you play, how you play, your good shots and stuff like that. So they know you as a player, and they collect all these clips and they will send them to like the agents of the college.
Okay. So it was almost like a draft, like American football, where you would maybe get selected by a certain college or that?
Yeah, so if I lived in America, say they would go around all the kind of high schools and scout people. But there is an opportunity to send these videos to the scouts. So that's what they will do. And then if they're interested in me, then they'll kind of say, yeah, we'd be interested in having her. And hopefully you get a few options as to what schools you want to go to. And then it would be up to me to decide which one I want to do. Right.
Okay. So that's definitely what you're working towards. That sounds exciting.
That's what I'm working towards at the moment. It's probably my number one of what I want to do. But I have also got other options if that comes about. But right now I'm thinking America.
Yeah, go for it. Sounds like it's good to have a dream, Stephen, isn't it?
Yeah, go big or go home.
Yeah.
And it could be interesting in America because Trump's in charge for the next 4 years, so that could be exciting as well, couldn't it? Being in America with the Trump, Donald Meister, but great stuff. Well, we'll keep tabs on that, how it goes and that. But obviously, the more successful you are with Elgin City Women, the more it'll help you achieve that as well.
Schools will come about probably about the end of 2025, start of 2026. So it gives me time to decide as well.
Yeah.
And I've got all of this year to develop before that as well.
Yeah. When did you first start playing football?
I'd say, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd say maybe about 6, 7. I started at a kind of Elgin City community thing.
Right.
It was probably Little Dribblers is what they call it now.
Okay.
Something like that on a Saturday morning. And I think I just progressed from there. I joined Murray Girls. At the time, it was under 13s. They only had two teams, two age groups at the time. And I think I was certainly not under 13. I think I was about 9, 10. So I was playing against people that was a lot taller than me, a lot stronger than me, a lot older than me. And I stayed there under 13s, which was 5-a-side, 7-a-side. And then up to under 16s, which progressed to 11-a-side. And I stayed there until 2 years ago, which from I moved to Cali. That was a short period of Cali. It didn't really work out for me. And that's when Elgin started, and I just knew that was for me.
Right, and that was the ideal to play for your hometown team.
Yeah.
So in a short space of time, it's really taken off at Elgin City. Obviously, your dad's the manager. Has he always been a bit of a role model and encouraging you and being behind you?
Yeah, he's always been there. Every single match, probably he's been there, and he's always wanted me to do more. He's wanted me to challenge myself. He never likes me being comfortable in a game. He likes me to go and make myself better, stuff like that.
Good stuff. You'll be too young, though. Have you any memories of your dad playing football? And he's too old for that, isn't he? Your dad's getting on a bit. So you wouldn't have seen him play football, have you?
Not really. I've got very vague memories of a day when he was playing for Nairn and he won the cup.
Okay.
And I've got a vague memory.
That was just towards the end of his career.
I've got just got this memory of my mum passing me over the wall after the game. But that's it. And then I was I was over the age of 10 when he was managing for Devon Vale,
right,
and player manager for Dufton. So I remember those days when he was player manager, mostly manager. Every odd game he would go on, and I was like, I think you see the sidelines. But
he was a good player, your dad. He was a really good, solid defender.
I wish I did get to see more of him. I see he sends me the odd clip when he scored or when his touch was good. That's all I see really now.
Has he sent you clips of any of his red cards or that? No.
I think I know enough of them. I'm trying not to copy him.
Brilliant, magic. Stephen, we mentioned earlier you're only 28.
I know.
You're the director of a football club. Is that quite unusual? Because people, probably Lily and folk think of directors as being older guys wearing blazers and suits and that, but you're quite young. How did the opportunity come about to become a director of a football club?
I know, I certainly bring the average age of the boardroom down, that's for sure. I was approached probably about just over a year ago now. I think the directors themselves kind of recognised they were lacking a bit of financial management, behind the scenes, and they'd like a bit more financial information, for making decisions and things like that. So initially, as I said earlier, I kind of said I didn't have the time, and I kind of had my arm twisted a little bit. And I guess when I really thought about it, I looked at the potential I think Elgin City has for the town, the community. Obviously, you see the first team on the pitch, but as we've talked about, you've got the ladies team, the community, the academy, and then obviously just being part of, when you have things like the Aberdeen game, the whole community comes together. So it was kind of what I saw the potential of what Elgin City could be, that kind of did draw me in. So in the end, I reluctantly agreed to sign my life away, and it has been really good actually.
Was it a big step at the time? Because you're still a young man. I don't know if you have family or that, but you're a young man. You've got your own job as well. Was it a big step to take?
Obviously I've got my own business, self-employed, so it's taken time away from that, and it is a bit of a juggle sometimes. Particularly in the beginning, there was a lot. The club's seen a lot of changes, and which I think most from the outside looking in can see. So it has been a big commitment. Luckily, I don't have children at the moment, so it's if I did, I'm not sure I would have the time. But I've had a wee bit of free time, and I've just managed to make it work, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what's your main attribute as the financial director? What do you bring to the table in terms of, have you got quite an analytical brain when it comes to looking at finances? Or
Yeah, so I guess just on looking at the big picture and drilling down on the numbers. Obviously, the playing budget's probably the biggest cost driver, and how that fits into the main budget. And obviously it kind of goes both ways. The main budget, the whole club also has to churn out what's left for the playing budget. And I guess it's identifying the shortfall and then looking at how you fill that shortfall, obviously through sponsorship, through obviously initiatives and things like when we had the Aberdeen game, the town hall, and how you kind of maximise the most out of things. So there's that side of things, but then I guess what people don't see as well is inside the financial systems of the club, obviously with lots of revenue streams and how that gets recognised and moved into a set of accounts, and obviously we get audited as part of our club licence, and we go through a financial audit as well, and there's all these elements of it which kind of have to be managed. So there's the looking at the finances from a bigger picture and, what that means for the club in the 3 to 5 year plan. But then there's also the day-to-day, from overseeing the payroll, expenses, player budget, buying, selling players, paying invoices, payment runs, all the really exciting stuff.
When you talk there about buying and selling players, and we touched on it when we had Stefan and Alan on the podcast about, because in the summer, and maybe you'll have an opinion on this as well, Lily, because Elgin bought a lot of players in the summer. I think it was 10, and a lot of folk were saying to me, and even I was thinking, well, where's Elgin getting the money for all these players? And maybe the fans were saying that as well, Lily. But Alan said it comes back to this player trading model where you actually took in quite a bit of money that folk maybe didn't realise, that paid for Jack Murray and Ryan Sargent and Dejan. Obviously he's Alan's Army sponsor, but so Elgin weren't splashing the cash in that sense. It was very carefully managed, and
it was managed. As I say, we keep really tight controls on the player budget. As you say, everyone sees the players coming in, but we did have valuable players obviously going out, and as I say, everything's got to be balanced. So the player trade model really did help, and again, kind of finding the right fit for players going out, to try and get the most for them, or the best deal we can, for bringing players in as well. So there's been a fair bit of negotiation, obviously with the two Allens on, the actual player contracts, and, as I say, you come back to the actual playing budget quite a lot at these times. I mean, summer was a nightmare. I don't think any of us really want to relive how many players had to come in and go out at that time.
Yeah, it was a really busy period, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was.
It just seemed to be every week, Lily, there was a different player getting signed, wasn't it? Another new signing, another
Facebook
new signing.
Facebook was going mental.
Aye.
It's been really good for the club, and it proves these signings, and Elgin should be pushing for promotion this season, definitely. And it's great to go down and watch, and performances are good, and it's really kicked off this season for the men's team, I think.
Yeah. And I suppose the player trading model, that'll work for a lot of these guys that have come in, taking a step up. If they do well, they get noticed, and then they get, go to bigger clubs. The club could make profit on them as well. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I suppose that's the main focus on that model is, that you take players in, you develop them further, and then obviously, there's, if they're moving on, there's obviously a value in that for the club that will then obviously be reinvested in bringing players who come in. But equally, we want to see the club do well and move up, and, some of these players that develop with the club, obviously we want to keep them.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of these boys are tied to 2 and some occasions 3 year contracts, so you've got a bit of continuity and build something.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, obviously I can't speak for Alan, but I think the big thing he wants is his team, around him that he can work with. You don't really want, half a team made up of lone players that you don't know if you've got them this season, next season, or when that comes to an end. So
Yeah.
it's about having a solid foundation to build on, for the club.
Yeah. He did say until they signed Kian and Aidan on loan from Kilmarnock that there had been no loans this season, and it was only because Tom got injured that they were forced to go into loans. So otherwise there might not have been any loan players, which would have been quite unusual because Elgin's utilised the loan system quite a lot in the last few years.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. No, I don't think there were any loans until they came in.
Yeah. The January window, that's always a busy time. I mean, Alan did mention this week that Aidan's gone back to Killie short term. Dylan's now out injured for a significant period. So you've got a week and a bit left of the window. So is your phone red hot at the moment?
Yeah, I would dare say there's always things to manage. I mean, losing Aidan, was a big loss. Thankfully, obviously Tom is back fit, so we're not going to be without a keeper. But obviously, it's just a lot of things to manage. Whether or not he's back at Killie full time, and that's the end of it, or whether he does come back and there's a dynamic to work out between the two keepers there. If that happens, but I'll leave that to Alan. And in terms of obviously signing new players, I mean, if obviously we're down players, obviously there'll be the saving and that loan, and I would imagine, given the number of injuries we've got, which hasn't helped at all, we'll look to obviously reinvest
I
that.
suppose you are going to have all those injured boys back in the next 3 weeks to a month, so you can't bring in that many new players because you're going to have a squad again pretty soon. So it's a kind of different balancing act, isn't it?
I suppose that's the challenge. That's what Alan will have to work out. It's his team at the end of the day. It's just about obviously managing the money side, and from my point of view, and making sure obviously the team has the money it needs to put a team on the pitch. But yeah, we've been gutted with injuries. There's no question of that, and we do hope obviously in the next few weeks. But until these guys are back actually on the pitch, you just don't know how their injuries will take, and it's the worst thing you can do is have them back too early and then out for another 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different dynamic with the women, Lily, because you say you obviously don't get paid. There's no budget as such, but what's the way your dad's been able to attract players? It's just by making the team as attractive as possible and being ambitious and giving, like she brought in like Sir Lindsay, who played at a higher level, and she moved through here. So is it just building a kind of team and an aspiration? Yeah,
it's just kind of building connections in the community as well. My dad knows quite a lot of people, and like Sir Lindsay, she's moved here for a job and was looking for a club, and it just so happened that we got to sign her. I think Callie was after, and a few other teams, but our team is very close. We've had people come in and say, wow, everybody's so close, you're all just like a massive group of best friends. And that's honestly what it is. There's no groups in our team, and it's great. Training sessions, you can speak to anyone, and it's winning games mainly as well. We've proved ourselves in the league last year. First time being in the league, and became, was it 4th last year? Yeah. So people knew that this year was our year, which hopefully it is going to be, and that's just attract players. Obviously, Mia coming from Norway. Yeah, that's an exciting one as well, and with the connection with the supporters over there. So I think that was her dad kind of showing interest at Elgin City. And to start off with, I'm pretty sure it was just a joke, Mia will come over, and Chris kind of agreed, saying, oh yeah, she can stay with me. And then summer she came over and tried, and she really liked it, and then it's just started from there. Yeah. She's obviously moved, and now she's in her own sort of place. Right. And yeah, as far as I'm aware, she's really enjoying it, and she's made obviously loads of new friends over here. Yeah. And new lifestyle. And she's banging in the goals as well. She got a hat-trick at the weekend. So. Yep. She's been a real asset to us this season as well. So one thing you've definitely got, I mean, between yourself and Darcy and, Alexa and Mia, you've got goals in that team, haven't you? Yeah, we've got goals all over the pitch as well. Carly had a header on the weekend. That was a banger, wasn't it? Yeah, she was absolutely delighted. Carly loves a header. Yep. I mean, she will. She would head a brick wall if you asked her to. She would. But that was an absolute banger. She just rifled it in it. It was brilliant. Yeah, she was absolutely delighted with that. I'm not surprised. But as you say, we've got goal scorers all over the pitch. If you ask someone to step up, I'm sure they would. Yeah.
Excellent. This is good with both of you because we've touched on the Aberdeen game, but we'll have to reflect on the weekend. Lily, as a fan, I mean, how much did you enjoy the whole build-up to the game and then the actual occasion itself?
Yeah, it was amazing. I took the day off work and everything, and it was kind of the build-up for the game. All the women's team, we all went together.
Right.
So there was a group of maybe 20 of us, got to the stadium about 2 o'clock, and it was maybe twice the amount you would see at a normal Saturday game. So you walked in and you thought, oh wow, this is a lot of people. And by the time you got to kick off, you couldn't move. And the atmosphere was brilliant for the men's players as well. You know, I think they really enjoyed it. Getting a big team like Aberdeen, all the publicity. You seen people walking around the ground with their cameras. It was really good, and it was a good game. Elgin probably got a bit unlucky with the second goal. I think that's a bit up in the air at the moment.
Don't go back to that saying. It was never over the line.
No.
I'm sorry, Aberdeen fans, but it was never over the line.
I think even Aberdeen posted it, and they knew it wasn't in either. Because I've seen the linesman put his flag up, and then the referee blowing his whistle, and that Aberdeen players were away celebrating. So I think everyone was a bit confused, and then you kind of heard the Elgin fans, you know, that wasn't over the line, which they were correct. It wasn't.
No, when you see the video footage, I mean, a tiny wee bit of his elbow was over the line, but so the ball couldn't have been.
Needed VAR there.
Yeah, I know. Goal line technology. But is there a lot of girls in the women's team that are Aberdeen fans?
Yeah, there was quite a few kind of neutral people, should I say, at that game. They weren't, I don't think they were really fussed about the score. They just wanted to go down and experience it. But I was definitely not supporting Aberdeen. No chance.
You and your dad, you support the blue half of Glasgow, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always and forever.
Is that your dad that brainwashed you from an early age to support Rangers?
It was never a choice.
Yeah.
Not that I would ever want to support any other team, but it's probably generations it's been Rangers, and it's just a given. It's just you support your dad's team.
Yeah,
as growing up.
I did. Unfortunately, I support Queen of the South, and my son is brainwashed to think Queen of the South are a decent team as well. But from you, Stephen, I mean, without giving figures, but will the club make a decent amount of money out of that game? I know you've got to give half of it to Aberdeen, but
I mean, the Aberdeen game, you know, that's kind of what we do it for. You know, to bring a Premiership club to Elgin, you know, for the town, for, you know, the players, you know, the team, to give them that experience and to show, you know, obviously young players, you know, that they could have the opportunity at Elgin to play against the Premiership team. I think that's, you know, just a really great opportunity. I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot more costs involved, you know, so whilst you see a packed stadium and obviously the money, as you said, obviously Aberdeen, you know, they get a big share of that. And then obviously you have all the additional security costs and, you know, the cost of living on the hospitality. So yeah, the club will make money out of it, but probably not as much as everybody thinks. I mean, I hear quite a lot of people saying, you know, that there'll be a great big windfall from it, but it's not really the case. So yes, you know, there's profit in it, but it's not quite what people think it is.
Yeah, aye. I suppose, I mean, it's a cliche, but people always want Rangers or Celtic away in these competitions because that's where the big money is. And I suppose Pittodrie, that would have still been, you know, a bigger payday if you got an away game. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. Obviously, there's no hassle, there's no planning. Obviously, you just go and have a great day out, and then you get a big check in the post, basically. And it's, you know, it's great from both point of views if you get an away Premiership team, but at the same time, you know, you get the buzz around the club, and obviously, you know, the potential of, you know, a banana skin, and obviously, you know, seeing a sold out, you know, Barra Briggs is a pretty nice feeling.
Aye.
Like to see it more often.
Yeah, because last year I think they talked about Bucky Thistle potentially making about $250,000 out of the Celtic Cup tie as well. So
I think those numbers are probably pretty accurate. I mean, and then obviously Fraserburgh away at Ibrox, I think, did I read they had 36,000 people.
36,000 the crowd was. So
yeah, I mean, so that amount of money, you know, getting a gate share, and you know, the gate fees will be higher than obviously even what we would be charging at Barra Briggs. So you know, they are good paydays. You know, everybody wants one of them, but you know, only 2 teams can get one, I guess.
Yeah, aye. If Elgin had got Rangers away, where would you been sitting, Lily?
I would have been absolutely delighted. We were sat watching the draw, and it was, I think it was Glasgow City versus Celtic came out before us, and I was like, oh, that's like half their chances of getting one of those
Yeah.
teams. And then, yeah, obviously St Johnstone came out the hat. I was a bit unsure to start with. It was not something that I'd hoped for, but it's not something that we're still in the last 16 of the Scottish Cup. It's still an incredible achievement.
I mean, when you say that line, you're through to the last 16. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's an amazing achievement, already, regardless of how you do it, St Johnstone. So,
Yeah, we're the lowest ranked team left in the cup by, I think there's only one or two teams maybe in the league above us, and then everybody else is the top league, the SWFL, and two leagues below that. So we're automatically going to be the underdogs, but again, we proved in the last round that underdogs can win, and
Absolutely.
that's what we're going to do.
definitely. Aye, fingers crossed. We're looking forward to that. Stephen, I just want to quickly ask you, I mean, what's been the most challenging thing in terms of the finances of being a financial director of a club? Has there anything surprised you about the job?
I suppose just how many different aspects there is, all the different bits to it. There's far more than probably people think, and how it all comes together, from, the supporters club, community academy, ladies, men's, all the different sponsorship revenues. It's kind of how it all comes together. It's a lot to keep on top of. But no, I mean, it's kind of just like any business, at the end of the day, cash is key. If you manage the cash, the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. So you need a cash flow to...
Yeah, you do. I mean, the things that people don't realise is obviously, what you would call the league winnings, we probably play our last game, the beginning of May, but actually in terms of what you get in league fees for being in the league, you often don't get that until October.
Right.
So, that's well after, the next season started, and you're still getting money for the previous season. So if you're not, managing, your cash flow really well, then you could find yourself in some problems.
Right. And does the club get an income as to where they finish in the league? Do you get prize money as such?
Yeah, so obviously your fees that, largely depend where you finish. Obviously, it changes, pretty variably. Obviously, the fees have increased each year. The SPFL, I think, have been really focused on increasing the fees because they know the financial hardships that obviously teams are facing. So they've kind of increased through obviously the sponsorship deals they've done and so forth. But obviously, where you finish, largely dictates, how much you get. Likewise, obviously, if you make it into obviously the playoff, you're potentially looking at the gates from a couple more games. And so it's things like that. And actually, in a club like Elgin, obviously a couple more games or, a couple places more, that little bit of money, does make the difference.
Excellent. Good stuff. Lily, we've talked about your aspirations to maybe make a career in football. Growing up and certainly now, who do you look up to in the men's and the women's game in terms of role models or people you try to take little bits from them into your own style?
Yeah, I think I've always looked up to my dad
Right.
as a men's side, him being a player, and I'm obviously living with him. It's just, he's always been there, and he's used his experience to try and coach me, and he's done a great job so far.
No, that's good. That's nice.
Yeah, I've kind of always looked up to him, looked for him for advice, stuff like that. But if I was to say someone in the women's game, it would probably be Ella Toon.
Right.
So I'm also a Man United fan.
Okay.
Not great at the moment, but...
Neither side, men or women, are they?
No. So,
and the men are I think the coach just came out and said they're probably one of the worst teams in Manchester United's history.
Yeah,
which was
they are.
Surprising to hear him say it. But
I've always kind of looked up to her English national team as well. Can ping a ball, some great goals. It's inspiration to be like her.
Yeah, the Lionesses, they did capture, the imagination of a lot of fans, didn't they?
Yeah, after they won the Euros, women's football just skyrocketed. They'd done so much for, even things in Scotland, had done so much for things here. People started noticing women's football and more funding, stuff like that. Everything kind of just escalated rapidly, which is great.
Brilliant, good stuff. Hopefully in years to come, young girls maybe look up to yourself.
Yeah.
And they'll say there's Lily Morrison, she started off at Elgin City when you're in America or wherever. So
That would be amazing. If I was if someone said to me in 10 years' time, there's a little girl with my name on the back of her shirt, that's just like a whole different level.
Aye, that's a nice thought. Aye.
What someone dreams of.
You never know. We'll get you back on in 10 years' time if the podcast is still going then, or we'll see where you are in 10 years' time.
Hope so.
Aye, great stuff. This last question to both of you: what would constitute success for Elgin City Women and Elgin City Men this season? You go first, Lily.
I think the men's team's definitely looking for promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Playoffs or instant promotion has definitely got to be up there. They've sitting third?
Third at the moment.
Third,
aye.
and there's only a couple of points in it.
Mm-hmm.
We've proved ourselves against the big teams in the leagues
Mm-hmm.
this season. And it's exactly the same with the women's team, except you have to place third first in the league to get promotion.
Right.
Because we play in the SWFL North,
Mhm.
but you've got the North, East, South, West, Central, and it's one team from every league then go into playoffs to then get
Okay.
promoted. So there's only meant to be one team out of the 5 leagues that gets promoted into League
All right.
One.
So that's quite
So
tough.
it's really
Aye.
hard to get out of. So that's why you'll find teams in these sort of leagues that are beating League One sides,
Mhm.
because only one team from the League One will go down,
Right.
and only one team from all 5 leagues will go up.
Mm-hmm.
So some teams that are better than League One teams are waiting sometimes 5 years to get up.
Right. Okay.
So it's not particularly great for us, for some teams like us, but
Mhm.
it's just stuff you've got to deal with at this sort of level, I think.
Yeah. So is your focus on going for the title?
Yeah, that's definitely it. Our main competitors probably Ross County,
Mm-hmm.
Grampian, Huntly being a feisty one.
Yeah.
Teams like that. We're playing Ross County in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen that.
it's a busy
16th of February.
Next week being Scottish Cup, the week after being the quarterfinals of the League Cup,
Mhm.
and then the week after that is Ross County. So February is a
So that's
massive
3.
month
Yeah, I was
for
going to
us.
say that's 3 massive games. 2 of them
Yeah.
at home
Yeah.
as well. So
So we're looking to win. Definitely Ross County looking to win that, and League Cup. Scottish Cup, we're going to see how that goes, but hopefully I win as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's good. Excellent. And Stephen, I mean, yourself, what would you see as success for both teams this season?
I mean, largely, I'd say both teams have already been a great success. You know, they've shown the club to be a formidable adversary. They've held the club in good light. I mean, seeing how the players conducted themselves against Aberdeen, was just great to see. They did give them a game, particularly in the first half. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see them in the playoffs, and that's definitely what we push for. It's a really tight league, so I'm certainly not going to say anything to tempt fate, but I do think Elgin, deserves, its chance to fight up at the top of the league. They've shown it this season with so many injured players. Surely that has to be coming to an end, and it'd be good to see. And the ladies' team, as I say, they're so new, they've gone from strength to strength, and to see these young girls going out and performing at that level, I think it's great, to be in the quarters of the Scottish Cup, fully behind them.
Yeah.
Love to see them get that done and move on to the final 8, and I think that would just be great to see. But whatever happens, immensely proud of them all.
It's an exciting time to be involved with Elgin City, isn't it, Lily?
Yeah,
Men
just
and
starting
women.
up and now we're here.
Mhm.
And the men's team as well, this is probably the best I've seen them in a few years, definitely.
Aye.
And promotion should be key for both of them.
Oh, well, fingers crossed it keeps going well.
Yep.
Right, thank you both. It's been fantastic. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
you haven't divulged any financial secrets, Stephen, so you can breathe a sigh of relief.
No, Alan Hale must have forgot to give you his list.
And thank you, Lily. And good luck at this weekend in at Spain Park,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
then obviously the big one down in Perth.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be great. Right, thanks to Lily and Stephen. You've been listening to the Bury Briggs Beat. Tune in again next time.